this is Dread from Epoch Builds, and in today's video topic, we'll go over Maelstrom Totem Shaman, finally bringing Maelstrom to the forefront of viability and pumping out some insane DPS for little investment. If you enjoy last Epoch content and want to see more of it, I'd suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that's the best up to keep up with the latest builds. So Maelstrom before patch 8.4 was pretty much only used as a utility skill, providing some healing, frenzy, haste, some flat dodge. But with this patch, they did some drastic changes to how it works overall, with less duration and more damage per stack of Maelstrom. This on top of them adding Beneath the Waves, a node that allows you to cast multiple Maelstroms at once if you haven't cast one recently, much akin to Unleash from Path of Exile if you're familiar with it. It means that the build overall feels way easier to play. All of this means is we can finally put Maelstrom to work as our main DPS. Another build, called DoT Werebear, uses Maelstrom, but in a much more of a secondary role. Our build uses Maelstrom to do all of our single target and clear thanks to being able to cast them on our totems. When we cast them on our totems, our Maelstroms get 300% more damage. This leads to insane numbers, going to like 300 to 400k DPS on the dummy with this little setup. Thanks to Beneath the Waves and Warcry, we can quickly put 8 Maelstrom stacks on a single totem, which lasts for about 6 seconds. Thanks to Shaman for making our totems super cheap and using Warcry and Beneath the Waves to discount our Maelstroms, it means our skill rotation for clearing monoliths is very mana light, meaning we do not need much mana regeneration on gear at all, leading to an overall easier gearing experience and making the build significantly cheaper to get into. Our single target skill rotation is based on utilizing Spriggan Form. When we transform into Spriggan Form, we are catapulted back to max mana no matter how much we had before. And if we maintain our rage close to max, it means we transform back and we're back at max mana, serving as our main source of mana gen. We also spam up to 9 healing totems, which have a much longer duration than regular thorn totems, up to a 16-second duration, meaning they are the best target to put Maelstroms on when killing a boss. We also gain a large chunk of increased cold and spell damage per active totem, so having all of our totems out boosts our damage significantly on bosses. This used to not be possible before this patch, but healing totems gain such a long duration, it allows this build to flourish. We also grab the spell damage leeches life blessing from Black Sun, allowing us to leech all of our damage back. Before getting this blessing, I'd suggest utilizing an Avarice, which is a quest reward from the first town which lets you leech 3% of your elemental damage as life, pretty much keeping you topped off until you can finally swap over to the Black Sun blessing. There's a lot more small things and tech choices and skill rotations to talk about, but we'll do that in the video. Let's get in there, shall we? Alright, here we are in game with the build. So this build has a few different ways how you're supposed to play it to make it the best ever. When you are playing in monoliths, your main objective is just simply, of course, rush to the objective, right? But while you're moving through packs, you can place down a totem, apply your Warcry, and apply your Maelstrom. As you can tell, that's enough DPS to clear most trash in the game as you're moving through the monoliths and stuff, right? So you just do that, and that's it for clearing. Now, one problem is the fact that targeting sucks. So for instance, if you place the totem like right here, and you try to like Warcry Maelstrom, it will apply the Maelstrom at you instead of that. And as you can tell, you do way worse damage in comparison to just putting it on the totem, right? So obviously you want it to be on the totem to do damage. You don't want it to be on yourself. That's very bad. So yeah. Now for single target, it's a little different. Now what you're going to do for single target, usually you're going to pre-fire, kind of like how I do. Set up some totems, use the totems to like get all your mana back, your rage back, and then by the time You can get human form here. Your healing totems have a much longer duration thanks to this node in combination with this node. That means that your healing totems literally last for like 16 seconds. So they're what you want to be putting your maelstroms on, right? And then swap back into human form and then just simply go ham on a single totem, right? Just go ham, right? And this is how you do single target damage with your maelstroms and stuff. And then you swap back to Spriggan, do the same shit, wait for your maelstroms to go off, and then start summoning totems, and then rinse and repeat. And that's how you do single target. Now, obviously, it's not like, you're not technically doing like 300k DPS, quote unquote, because it's not always up. Like there isn't an uptime and all that. But it pretty much goes to like 200k DPS if you like keep it up, right? Like if you keep it up with the uptime and stuff. So that's how you do single target, and that's pretty much how you play the build. And you just swap in between, and it feels amazing. So for skills, Maelstrom itself, we have a 25 Maelstrom. We have a +3. You don't need a +3, you only need a +2. Then we have +1 on Twisted Heart as well, so that's +4. And then we have a +1 from a Dragon Staff, which is very strong. This staffs were reworked this patch to include this. And that's why we have a 25 Maelstrom. So I'm going to go over the most important parts of the skill, then go through the least important parts. So 4 points travel into Turmoil for the increased AoE. Having a bunch of AoE with Maelstrom feels nice because it makes your monolith clear feel better. Then 3 points into Beneath the Waves. This makes it so that every few seconds, whenever you're not casting Maelstrom, you gain stacks of Beneath the Slumber, which means you don't have to actually sit there casting Maelstrom, and it actually saves you on mana significantly, meaning that I barely have any mana regen, but I don't need it because this is so cheap, right? Like it's not like you only cast 1 Maelstrom and you get 4, right? And that feels amazing. So that's why this node is insane. Then 1 point travel into Storm's Aid. This makes it so you can cast Maelstrom on things other than yourself, which is important for the build. Then 5 points into Vortex, so you deal 300% more damage when cast on a totem. This is the node the whole build is built around. This is why we're doing so much damage with Maelstrom. Then we take 1 point travel into Whirlpool. 4 points out of 5 in Turbulence. If you get a +4 to Maelstrom, or you get some extra plus levels elsewhere, you can put the 5th point in this. Then 2 points travel into Calm, then 1 point into Windswept. Now, I am only running Windswept because I only need the movement speed. I don't need the Frenzy because I have plenty of cast speed. I have like 121. I just need the movement speed, right? And having 100% uptime on Haste feels amazing for Monolith pushing, right? It's 79% movement speed. You could go for the Frenzy, but as you can tell, we're very starved on points. Then 2 points travel in Arctic Chill, then 2 points into Eye of the Storm. Why am I grabbing this node? Well, with the way the game works currently, right, with multiplicative modifiers, right, we get 300% more from here, and we get 64% more here. This gives you 40% more. So imagine if you're doing 200k DPS, right? This would make you deal 280k DPS, right? With just 2 points. And it's definitely worth the less area to do this more damage, and it's definitely worth the points because you want to have a bunch of different multiplicative damage modifiers instead of just a bunch of points in 1 or 2. Obviously, this node's insanely strong, but the other stuff, right? And that's why I have that. Then for Spriggan form, we have 4 points into Totem Warden. This on top of the totem duration inside Eternal Forest because we gain the healing totems gain the Thorn Totem tree, so we get both this duration and this duration, meaning your totems last 16 seconds, which is really strong. Like they last a very long time. And that was the problem with the build before this patch, was the fact that you did not have really long duration totems, because at a base, Thorn Totem lasts 6 seconds. This brings it up to 10, and that's not really long enough to like stack all your Maelstroms on. But 16 seconds, deal, right? Then 3 points to Unbound Garden. This plus the max totems from here means you have 9 max healing totems, and then you also have 6 max those totems as well. So we get a lot of increased damage from that because we get damage per totem. That's why we have those nodes. Then 1 point travel into Iron Bark, 3 points into Deep Roots, 5 points into Terrace Bulwark, and 3 points into Bulb Growth. All so that we can buff up this node here, Thicket of Thorns. This makes it so whenever we actually gain a stack of Thorn Shield, we go up to like 40k armor for free, right? And that on top of the Ice Thorns armor as well. This is like the Ice Thorn setup for armor. We actually get a significant amount of armor thanks to this. Then for Thorn Totem, the main things we care about is 4 points into Forest Expanse, so we get extra totems. 4 points into Eternal Forest for the duration and the more health because you want your totems to not die. 3 points into Memories of a Terra so that we gain mana on Totem Death, which works inside Spriggan Form, which helps us maintain our mana in Spriggan Form, which is really nice. Then, of course, 5 points into Totemic Wisdom, so our totems don't cost a butt ton of mana. Also, as well, since we're a shaman, we actually gain 5 minus to the totem mana cost, which is insane for us because it makes it so our totems don't cost an arm and a leg, which means we can do this and not have to run much mana regen, right? So, all in all, the Thorn Totem tree is really strong. Warcry here, there's a few things that are important. We mainly just grab Shallow Breath because we want the cooldown. Everything else doesn't matter. 4 points in Staggering War and 1 point Apprehend. This is because we want to pull enemies into our Maelstrom Totem. So if we Warcry, it'll pull them into the Maelstrom Totem AoE, makes our AoE feel a little bit better, and we can like move around bosses like Orbis into our AoEs, which is really good because we can't move our totems, right? Especially after we casted Maelstroms on them. Then 1 point travel into Juggernaut, 1 point travel into Breath of Terror, then 4 points into Whirlpool. This makes it so we can get up to 8 stacks for free instantly every few seconds. Mainly you want to cast Warcry first and then cast Maelstrom because you'll get the increased damage from Frostclaw first. And then you get because the way the Maelstroms work is they snapshot at the time of casting. So if I have one totem here, and I'm at 538, this will deal 5338 damage. But then I summon another totem here, it'll do 5266 damage for the whole duration. But then, of course, since it changed, right, it won't change the damage that the Maelstrom's dealing. It will just change the damage that Maelstroms after the fact are casted. They'll deal damage, if that makes any sense. It snapshots pretty much in that regard. So you want to be applying your Warcry first. Warcry, then Maelstrom, because of this node, which gives you a butt ton of extra increased damage. And that's pretty much it for Warcry. Very useful. Like I said, Ice Thorns is just your stereotypical gain armor when your hit set up. There's nothing too special here. And for passives, we take 6 points into Gift of the Wilderness for increased minion health and HP. That's really nice. 8 points into Natural Attunement. We want to reach 60 attunement because it gives us double damage with this node, so 60 attunement is definitely what we want. Also, as well, what's really nice with stacking attunement is when we are in Spriggan form, when we go into Spriggan form after using all our mana, it will put us at max mana. So the more max mana we have, the more time we can spend outside of Spriggan form. So you want to have enough max mana to last the cooldown of Spriggan form, if that makes sense, right? You want to be able to have enough max mana so that when you go out of Spriggan form, you're completely fine, like you're good to go. And then once you run out of mana, then you go back into Spriggan form, get all your mana back. So attunement stacking is really strong for this build. So that's why we're grabbing the attunement here. Then 5 points to increase health, 1 point travel into Wisdom of the Wild, then 5 points in Berserker. The DR is very strong. We also don't have aspect of the boar because we're not a melee build, which is one of the problems of the build. So having this extra endurance layer, threshold layer, is very nice. Then 8 points into Earthsign Strength for the DR. Very, like I said, very important because we don't get all the DR from all this because we're not a melee build and we can't maintain a 100% uptime with Primal Strength. We also don't have enough points to do it anyways. Then 7 points into Chitinous Plating. I'm doing this so I can cap my endurance. Well, get close to capping my endurance, where I still need the endurance blessing from Spirits of Fire. I've been barely playing Shaman this patch, so I'm trying to catch them up to all the other builds currently. Then 5 points into Thicket of Thorns, so we get a chance to cast Thorn Shield on you when hit. This is very important for getting a bunch of extra armor. Then 4 points travel to Spirit Warden. Oh, I think I'm actually filling out this node to like get a bunch of flat HP so we can actually break 3k HP. Then 2 points travel into Druidic Prowess. You kind of use this kind of like a dump slot, so you can dump points to get to 60 attunement, because you don't want more than 60 attunement, but you want to be at 60 attunement. So like you can afford to take notes out of this and like move them around into the more HP and stuff like that. Then 5 points to Wind of the Leaves, because the cast speed's insanely strong, because it allows you to cast all your Maelstroms very quickly. It's a very large quality of life. So cast speed's very important. 8 points into Shamanic Infusion. Pen's really good for us. Of course, Attunement as well. 1 point travel to Silent Protector. 5 points to Totemic Fury, so that we can get increased cast speed with our while we have an active totem, which is pretty much all the time. Eventually, we want to be putting 8 points into Tempest form by moving some stuff around, so we actually get all that fled HP, because we want as much HP as possible. We have 8 points into Attunement, so that we get to 60 Attunement and its travel as well. Later on, when you get better Attunement gear, you can take points out of this and put it into Tempest form. 2 points travel into Windbringer, 5 points into Shattered Heavens. It's just 10 extra cold damage for your Maelstroms. Then 8 points in a Rune of Awe for 16 adaptive damage, which is 26 total from the tree, so that's on top of your staff. 8 points into Elemental Shrines for Attunement. Also, having a little bit of base mana regen helps, because it makes it so that when you're doing monoliths like this, you actually get back your mana as you're moving through the monoliths and stuff. You're not like, you do drain a little bit of mana if you're constantly spamming stuff, but not enough to the point where it's annoying, right? Which is nice. Then 8 points in Ascendant Circle. The whole point of being a shaman gets a increased damage per active totem. We have nine totems inside Spriggan form. And of course, we have 6 totems in human form. So that's 15 total totems. That's like 15. It's like 400% increased damage from this node, which is insane. Obviously, very strong in combination with increased cold damage per active totem as well. So just being able to summon totems and stuff and get a lot of increased damage from it's really strong, right? That's pretty much it for the passives. Now for the gearing here, you want cooldown recovery speed on your helmet. That's the most important thing, because having your war cry and less of a cooldown means that you can, make more totems while you're clearing, right? And your Spriggan form is on less of a cooldown, so that you don't have to wait as long to go into Spriggan form to get all your mana back. That helps a lot as well. Amulet, elemental damage over time, resistance, frailty. Oh, I don't think you want frailty, because you're not hitting enough to make frailty work. So you want like resistance, HP, the usual. The staff, you want elemental damage over time. This is actually a very bad staff. You could have much better than what I have currently. You could have a sealed elemental damage over time with like exalted increased damage over time and cast speed and stuff like that. Your suffixes literally don't matter with your weapon. There isn't any unique staves you want, so you just want to go as hard on one staff as possible. Dragon staff is your best in slot staff, because it has +1 to elemental skills, which is very important, as having plus levels with Maelstrom is important, as you can tell. Then, of course, for the chest, plus to Maelstrom, I have a +3. This is a very good chest. It doesn't have much HP. We'd be able to break 3k HP if I had a better HP chest, but you know what? +3 to Maelstrom, I'm not going to complain. Of course, Vitality, HP on the movement speed base, like best thing you can get. Rings, elemental damage over time, attunement, res. The only reason I'm using this because it has a lot of res. Elemental damage over time, crit avoid, res, HP, the usual. You probably want it on coral rings or silver rings so you can move. As you can tell, my reses aren't capped with my totems, because we're a shaman and we get a bunch of elemental resistances. You don't want to not cap your elemental resistance with this node, right? But you also don't want to like go too overboard to the point where like if you don't have a totem up, you die. So you kind of like want to like you can use this to cap your reses, but like don't rely upon it. I don't have my necrotic res capped, and that's because I've been farming Black Sun, and Black Sun has no necrotic mobs, so I've been pretty much scot-free on necrotic res. You could run more necrotic res than what I'm running right now. It just would require you to like jumble some gear around. Bell, elements damage over time, cleanse, cold damage, HP, the usual. Gloves, you want atrophies with cast speed, HP, attunement. This is insane. Atrophies with the pen is really strong, so this is like exactly what you want. All that cast speed, all that damage over time, like amazing. Boots, you just want as much HP as humanly possible. You could get a Terra's Blessing, a Terra's Path. You can get a Terra's Path here, and with like LP, get movement speed, HP, like that would be a really good upgrade. Then, of course, Twisted Heart of Okaros. We are using this because not only does it give us a bunch of extra flat HP as we go through the monoliths, like it just gives us a buffer for damage. This makes up for the fact that we do not have, what do you call it? We do not have like aspect of the boar. It also means that while we're slamming on a single target here, we get a bunch of ward, which I'm going to show you in a second here. Get a mega crud ton award, which allows us to just face tank a boss very easily, right? We also get the plus to skills, which is important, obviously. The base of the Dragon Heart, the increased health is insanely strong. It's like a bunch of free HP, right? 2400, 2700. Like we are literally only using Olkeros because it has a large amount of increased health and plus the skills. Obviously, the ward stuff is cool, but we're not focusing on that. It's cool to have a bunch of ward, don't get me wrong. But, like the more important thing is just having all of that increased HP because you want as much HP as humanly possible at this setup, especially since we're not running like a shield. We can't really run a shield because we want a dragon staff for the adapted damage. We also, you could technically run a bastion with this setup. You'd be supremely ZDPS though, so I would be very careful when swapping over to that. So overall, I like the build. I like the setup with Olkeros because just having all that increased health also as well, you can get it with LP and then it feels amazing because you get attunement on it. That means less attunement. You got to get on the tree, which means more flat HP. You can get on the tree, which means you can get to like 4k HP. The spell damage leeches life, covers your Olkeros as well, which is really nice because you're at max HP when you're doing like doing single target stuff. Then for idols, increased damage per cold damage per active totem. Whole reason to play this build. These two idols having vitality on the prefix as well, insanely strong, like I said, because having HP is insanely strong. Crit avoid, HP, then like slam it out with like resistance and vitality and stuff like that. That's like all you really need. Having increased spell damage with an active totem as well. Also, as well, if you don't feel like as though you need haste, you could run chance to gain haste when you summon a totem, and then take this point out, take these points out, and go into more damage and duration and stuff if you feel like it. But I just like having the 100% uptime on haste. I feel that's more important than having just a little bit of extra damage, right? But yeah, that's pretty much it with the build. With all that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you're at, and bye.